Clark.
This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go!
You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. Exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics. Dr. Politics. He calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics, go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics.
Good evening, everyone. Got a little faster. It is Friday, September 12th. Can you believe it's already September 12th, Don?
It moves fast.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, 12 months was like forever. Now 12 months goes by like a snap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
24 years since the 9/11, so
Yeah, I
that's
know.
going fast.
I want wait a minute. Our conversation about Fawn Hall and Ollie North, okay, David.
Yeah.
You definitely piqued my interest. So I had to. I've
Right.
gone to Wikipedia to see
Mhm.
exactly what happened to Fawn Hall. It's so she
But she-
dated Rob Lowe after the trial, Ollie North trial. He tracked her down. And then in April '93, she married this Danny Sugarman, former manager of the Doors, and then he got her addicted to cocaine.
Oh, jeez.
But then, she wound up marrying North on August 27th.
Congratulations, Colonel North. Congratulations.
It just
met
strikes
following
me-
the funeral of North's wife.
It just strikes me as an amazing sort of story because I was first coming into politics at this time. And when I was young, but just getting interested in, I found out Ollie North's barber was there on Idol of Westover in Arlington. And I got my hair cut because the barber offered a special, like $8, you get the Ollie cut, and I got it. And I ended up meeting North there, and I saw North on a number of different occasions. Seemed generally like a nice guy. And so, yeah, and remember during the scandal, there was always the rumors, and there's no basis for it, but that he was having an affair with her anyway. I don't think there's any basis in that. But
That's just fake news.
but
You
just
know.
the fact that they ended up getting married after all these years, I think is kind of amazing. So,
I mean,
I
Yeah.
said earlier, it's almost like Marcia Clark getting married to like Chris Darden or Mark Furman or something. It just seems like a weird sort of, in a scandal. Anyway.
And I'm glad we're able to laugh about it. But I mean, I like Ollie North. I think he was a great patriot. He should have been the senator from Virginia if it weren't for Marshall Coleman.
And John Warner put also.
Oh,
John Warner was no conservative, but
Well, John Warner was the one that put Marshall Coleman up to running
yeah,
as an independent.
yeah. Mhm. Right.
But John, let me tell you, in John Warner's defense, he was the first speaker I got when I was over with the GWCRs. He was the because I ran into him at a visual systems store, and they just had a big spread in the Washington Post that morning. That's why I even knew what he looked like. I go, Senator Warner, and we're talking. I go, hey, we'd love to have you come and speak at GW. his chief of staff gave me his card. He says, "Call me, and we'll give you some dates if those works for you." So, he did like working with young people. Him and Phil Graham. I mean, Phil Graham used to also say, I like work with young Republicans because it makes me feel young. And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. But so
I mean, you remember? I mean, Fawn Hall was in her youth. I mean, she was a pretty girl.
yeah.
I think that's what fueled those rumors, And I mean, it doesn't matter. You can be the most loyal husband in the world, and
Yeah.
you got these political scandals, and then you have this pretty girl, and all of a sudden people start throwing all this stuff at you. Can you imagine what this would have been like? If we had social media at that time, but it's because things move so fast now. But you just need that would have just lit the match. Just boom, lit the fire, boom. I don't know. I mean, that would have that could have had a devastating effect on Norse marriage just from the pressure from social media, because the haters would have been out in force.
Is this really Fawn Hall? It says it's Fawn Hall.
Yeah, it looks like.
She looks like Deirdre Hall, though. She looks like Deirdre Hall, Electra Woman.
I just wonder if she's updated that haircut in 40 years. I assume so. I can't find a recent picture of her.
Yeah.
I can't find a recent picture of her.
There's probably a reason for that.
So that was one of the things, is that on Wikipedia, it said after she sold the house that she and her husband had after he died, she went to work at a bookstore in 2012. So I mean, she just basically laid low. So getting a recent picture of her probably would be really, really hard. What the thing, Dwight? I mean, somebody's bidding on her picture. What was that?
That was that was just it was from what do you call it? It's a stock photo place where you can buy them. It's
okay. So
it's Getty Images.
You know who else?
Did I read that right though? $375.
Yes, for a medium, 300 DPI. And that's really only like a wallet size. It says 2.9 inches by 3.4 inches. That's the medium. The large is you get a 8x7.
You know who else was the other?
That's $500. But I really want to know who would pay $500, $300, $400 for a picture of Fawn Hall.
Somebody out there. I mean, obviously Getty has priced this at that rate for some reason.
Well, maybe North would buy it.
Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Look at this. She looks like Catherine Janeway in this picture. She looks like Kate Mulgrew, don't you think? With that hair.
I think Fawn Hall looks better, but hey, whatever.
Like she could go,
that whole style back then, though, those long tresses.
Yeah. And this is History for Sale that had it. And that picture is, you got a call for $280. But that's autographed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, David, what were you saying though?
Well, I was going to say the other femme fatale sort of that era, the political scandals would have been Donna Rice. And she turned out to be a conservative. And I saw her and I didn't talk to her long, but at a CPAC or something, she was there. And she was, one of her crusades was an anti-porn crusade. I forgot what the name of the group, but
didn't she also pose in Playboy, Donna Rice? Just saying.
I don't think so.
But I tell you this,
you may be confusing her with, Rita Jenrette, but also the Baker chick, the one with Jim Baker had the affair, the secretary.
Yeah, she had a name like Fawn. It was like similar to Fawn Hall.
Yeah, I forgot what her name was, but yeah.
By the way, though, here's a little secret on Gary Hart. I have met so many Republicans that are our age now that were really excited about Gary Hart in 1984. Which I think is kind of weird, because I mean, Bill Lind used to work for Gary Hart. I mean, that's like the weirdest thing in the world. Is like, Bill, you're working for.
I think a lot of the neocons came from Gary Hart's orbit.
Do you think so? I mean, are neocons really bad people? I don't think so. We just believe.
No,
in
I like a few. I mean, I think John Bedouritz. I like.
I mean, they called Jim Baker a neocon too, and I like Jim Baker. He was probably our second best Secretary of State we've had, or third actually.
Well, I don't think Jim Baker would have been neocon in the sense that under Bush they didn't go all the way to Baghdad, which would have been what the neocons would want.
Well, there was a lot of people that wanted that, and a lot of Democrats also wanted that too.
I don't remember them, but maybe.
Yeah, but shall we talk about the?
So just one final thought on seeing it. So Donna Hughes, I mean, Donna, she goes by Donna Rice Hughes, and she's on Facebook.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I was just double checking something here. So she puts in her on her profile, yeah, it's a thing called Enough is Enough. It's a 501c3.
Yes,
so,
that was the anti-porn group.
Yeah, so it's mission to make internet safer for children and families and stuff like that. Or
yeah, I'm adding her as a friend, and if she adds me, I'll say, hey, thank you for derailing Gary Hart's campaign in 1988. Yeah. The Bush campaign thanks you.
But if you back to David's point about it, it's just that if you see her posts on Facebook, which I do from time to time, it's very conservative. It's like, and for us that were back in that day, we're like, whoa.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, she was from Columbia, South Carolina. So she probably was. And by today's Democrat standards, Gary Hart would be a conservative right-winger.
Yeah, he'd be like a moderate Republican today.
Right.
Gary Hart.
Right, he would be, right.
He'd be like Mitt Romney.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Romney in Utah, I guess we should mention the sad situation there in Utah with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, I'm glad they caught the guy.
Yeah, I was frightened that the guy would get away with it or still be at large for a bit, but they got him. So it looks like it's him. So thank goodness they got him.
Yeah, I would tell you, one of our writers, Ian Schwartz, wrote an article this week about Charlie, and he did mention that, which I thought was great. Charlie is the William F. Buckley of the millennial generation. Like William F. Buckley, he stood up for free speech. He did let the Democrats, he basically did let he didn't silence Democrats or any of that. Just kind of like how William F. Buckley would bring scores of Democrats onto firing line.
Yeah.
And Charlie will be missed. And I tell you this, I think they're not going to be able to silence conservative speech as we don't even know what the shooter was thinking about. That's their intent. This is not going to work. But what's even worse than all that is the vile nonsense we were hearing on the talking heads shows like MSNBC, CNN. I mean, Jamie Raskin of Montgomery County, well, it's like, I mean,
they fired Matthew Dowd, fortunately. For his company.
But they should have also fired that anchor woman from, I forget her name.
Katie Turner.
Yeah.
They
should fire her too. And they're going to be MS now.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they're not going to be able to afford half the reporters they have there. They're going to become like, I don't know.
And they also
seem like a high school newspaper.
They seem to ignore the fact that, they vilify Trump as the next Hitler and a threat to democracy. And they don't seem to understand when Charlie Kirk, who's a big-time supporter, ends up getting shot. They don't see the connection between their rhetoric about.
And see the rhetoric, and everyone seems to think this all rhetoric stuff is all a news thing, but this is what the Democrats have been calling Republicans since Richard Nixon.
Yeah,
I mean, they called Jerry Ford, who is the nicest. He's probably hands down the nicest president we've ever had, next to George W. Bush, but they called him a Nazi. They used to mock him for falling down, tripping just once on a wet staircase in Germany, while Joe Biden couldn't even walk up the stairs, he had to get in through the cargo
short
area.
steps. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the cargo bay.
Mhm.
And he probably, I wonder, is there no? Yeah, he probably took that elevator to ride up to. But I mean, the way they ridiculed, I mean, the left has blood on their hands for this. Okay, you don't get to just go around and keep saying crazy stuff like, Trump is Hitler. The MAGA folks are like the brown shirts. No, you don't get to keep saying stuff like that. And I've seen people on Facebook, the day President Trump was almost murdered when he was shot in Butler, the Democrats, they were saying, damn, he missed, is the kind of comments they were like putting out there. What kind of world do we live in? I really think, a lot of the social media stuff, we really need to, I think, just kind of really go after some of those people that are making threats and hate speech on social media, frankly.
Well, shame them and publicly shame them, probably. Although maybe that's what they want. They want the attention.
However, we believe in free speech, and that is why we would never do that.
Yeah.
The left went after Republicans. Remember, after Biden won, they actually created a website to find anybody that gave any money to Donald Trump so we could fire them.
Yeah.
That is really vile on the left side. And they keep doing these things, and all of a sudden, and everyone acts, the people on the left act so sure. Oh, I can't believe that, yeah, it's one of your own people. It's because of your damn rhetoric you've been touting for the last 4 years. They've been doing, even when President Trump wasn't even president, they were doing this same vitriol rhetoric. It's like you're in charge. President Trump is not the president anymore. Why are you continuing your nonsensical stuff? You murdered a dad and a husband. I mean, now his wife and kids, they're going to grow up without, she's going to grow up without a husband. The kids will grow up without a dad. And the left doesn't even really care. I mean, it wasn't until, did you see the stuff on our favorite congresswoman from Colorado, Liz Boebert? She wanted to do a prayer after the assassination, and then that started a ruckus on the floor of the House.
Yeah, but I mean, I at first I thought, okay, yeah, but I kind of understand what was going on there a little bit. I mean, I think the Democrats' reaction to this was very poor, but what the speaker had done was, which I think would have been appropriate, because Charlie Kirk, was not a member of Congress or U.S. senator or president, is that he wanted a moment of silence. And that she then said she wanted a prayer, and so that kind of stirred the whole pot and got things going. I mean, I would have been perfectly fine with a moment of silence, because I think that's an appropriate thing. Do you need to have a prayer? It would have been nice, but we are so divided, that those kinds of things are just not going to happen. We've seen the vitriol. Our side is not, completely innocent in the vitriol they have. They're going to have, one of the things they're going to have to deal with is the fact that the shooter, the person they have in custody, comes as a Utah kid, comes from an LDS family.
He's a straight A student. He was really smart.
I don't know that he's had any mental health issues, but there's definitely something deranged as to why he would do this, go to all that trouble, seeking attention. I don't, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But, it doesn't, if our side was looking for some left-wing lunatic, it doesn't look like we're going to get that.
Yeah.
I mean, and we should not be thinking about that, where, this country has suffered too many times with political assassinations, JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, the attempt on George Wallace, Gabby Giffords, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump. You can do that. What happened in Minnesota with the former Speaker of the House, the Democrat. There's a bunch of things that have happened.
Governor Shapiro's house got burned.
Governor Shapiro's house, right? So I mean, what is going on in this country? What are we doing? What is this saying about us? And when the people react like they have, the ones that have been really nasty, you're just like, we're better than this. I mean,
Yes.
There's an article on Ed Week, and it's actually just talking about how many teachers have been suspended or fired because of their social media comments about Charlie Kirk. It's like, that's another thing. Is that teachers teaching our kids?
Yeah.
And look at that. I mean, look at what they're doing to our kids. I mean,
Yeah.
they're spouting all this hatred and this stuff.
And
Yeah.
here's the sad thing. Like when I was in school, there were no real openly, well, yeah, I'll say that. There were like, I had liberal teachers like the photography teacher, Miss Bloom. Oh boy, she was a nutcase. It's a photography class. You're not teaching a science. She would give quizzes and stuff like that. It's photography, Mrs. Bloom. And she was a very lefty person. But she, and she was the only one. But I tell you, most of my teachers were not. They were probably Democrats, but none of them really espoused, Reagan sucks, blah blah blah. I actually had this one teacher who said, I'm a Democrat. Reagan is the first and last Republican I'll ever vote for. And but that's about it. That was the worst of the worst, there. But now you got these teachers that are like blatantly, it's like there wasn't. I remember reading a story back when President Bush was president. Some kid walked in with a George W. A Bush Cheney lapel pin, and he was told to take it off. It was disruptive. The same school, as the kid pointed out, there was a kid that came into school with a picture of Uncle Sam with a bullet through his head with "He is in my MF uncle," and that was okay. They had one where there was another incident at the same school. Kid wears a Dick Cheney shirt with him being waterboarded, but that was just fine. But when a kid wears a Bush Cheney pin, that's disruptive. There's something wrong. The teachers have a mental illness, I think, in this day. They've lost their grasp of what's right and wrong. And what is the matter with parents who are letting kids walk out of their house wearing stuff like that?
Yeah, well, we think things have changed. I mean, I graduated high school in 1977. And from the time I was at Northwood from 74 to 77, I can look back. I'm like, we didn't have politics. I mean, there was, if like you said, the teachers may have been Democrats, but we didn't really know it, and they weren't really talking about politics. They were teaching their courses, whether or not it was algebra, geography, shop class, auto body, whatever.
Right, that's the class schools need to bring back is auto shop, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've lost a lot of skills as a result. When they just eliminate a lot of these classes. But I look back and I think, so I mean I turned 18 in 1977. Just what is it, 48 years ago this month, and so there wasn't an election then. That I could vote in that first presidential election, I could have voted. It was really good. But if I think about it, I don't remember anybody, even in 1976, I don't remember anybody trying to be political or wearing any pins. Even my fellow students that were the seniors.
John, you didn't go with the
who would have been 18 would have voted. I don't think that we had that many high school students voting back in the mid 70s.
Was the voting age 18 when you were in school, or was that still 21 then?
No, it was 18. It was 18. So I was, and then so I couldn't. The 76 election was already passed, so I couldn't vote. I had to wait for the presidential election for the first presidential election.
But you got to vote in the best. I
could vote in 1978 midterms there. So. Yeah, it's interesting to see how much has changed since then. The stuff that kids wear, it's very different. Social media has changed the landscape of what goes on. Cell phones in the classrooms. I mean, we can just list a litany of
Yeah, I mean, and I think the part of this is all part of the whole problem is, and it's like they are basically giving tacit approval for a lot of this stuff. I mean, you have a person in the Charlie Kirk who just passed away, and you have on social media and TikTok, you got all these people that are like celebrating. I mean, honestly, God, it's like if let's say Gloria Steinem, she's still alive, right, Don?
Yeah,
I think so.
Imagine if when Gloria Steinem dies, we all have a big party celebrating the death of Gloria. What would be, what would be the outrage from the media and the left? Conservatives are celebrating the death of, but yet those on the right, on the left, basically celebrated the death of President Reagan. They celebrated the death of Jerry Falwell. They celebrated the death of Barry Goldwater. They have no class. When a conservative dies, they're all happy and giddy about it. I mean, who says that? Like I remember I was watching, it was Hannity and Combs when President Reagan died, where one of the guests goes, "Well, he's probably turning around a nice shade of toasty brown by now." Like, have a little dignity, won't you? On the left, you people on the left outcry. When John Glenn died and somebody mentioned the Keating Five, Republicans all jumped over the guy because that was the right thing to do. John Glenn was an astronaut. Yeah, he was a crook, but he was also an astronaut. He was an astronaut, and you don't ridicule him on the day he dies. You don't put out press releases saying, "Oh, remember the Keating Five guys today." You don't do that. I know William F. Buckley used to do those critical obituaries, like I think he did the obit for Ayn Rand when she died. He said something along the lines of, "I wonder if she believes in God now."
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, you can put in an obituary. I mean, the Keating Five. I mean, that was a big scandal. I mean, I think obituaries can and should probably mention those kinds of things.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's not front and center news.
It's not.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the lead. It shouldn't be the lead. The orbiting the Earth should be the lead. But yeah, I mean that would be mentioned at some point. The Keating Five.
Yeah, you can mention it, but I mean, you don't do a press release saying Keating Five member and just.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't do that when John McCain died. We were respectful of his death. We didn't say member of the only Republican member of the Keating Five scandal dies today, and the guy that gave us campaign finance reform, shove that down our throats. Which, by the way, for him, but a Keating Five, the rehab was campaign finance reform for John McCain. And thoughts and prayers, they do mean something. Go out to Charlie Kirk and his family. And Charlie was a regular at CPAC. I mean, Don, do you remember we met Charlie Kirk in North Carolina at Civitas when we went? That was the first time I met him over at he was over at the Turning Point USA booth. They had the best tchotchkes there. I'll just say that at Civitas, Turning Point USA. They had pins. They had little wooden spoons.
I learned, this is one of those things. I learned more about Charlie Kirk, after his passing than I really knew about him before. Charlie Kirk was not someone I really followed very closely or cared about. I actually was not a big fan of his. But, in looking at his accomplishments here, here's a guy who basically at, age of 18, or thereabouts. I mean, he goes ahead and he starts to put together this organization, and he doesn't go to college or is a college dropout, and builds this enormous organization. I mean, this is the kind of thing that where college Republicans or other organizations, they could only hope that they could have built a network that strong, that would be that long lasting. And I went to the website, and there, I assume the numbers are somewhere within the range, because the numbers on websites sometimes are, they tend to be a little bit bigger, or their counting mechanisms can be a little bit fuzzy. But they had listed, 3,500 chapters or something like that, 2,000 student organizations, 800 faith groups. You know, faith groups and that was a big part of Charlie's life. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
he was not just a
He was also a lot like Ralph Reed, if you remember Ralph Reed of our generation with Christian Coalition. I mean, he turned that into a massive powerhouse within the Republican Party.
Right, but you know, the Christian Coalition was a big group, and I mean, this was really for people of all ages.
Yeah.
You know, TPUSA was focused on the youth of America,
the 18 to 25-year-olds.
Yeah, and you know, and he turned those people into very loyal Trump supporters.
Yep.
You know, it was a big deal for what he had done. You know, what TPUSA does going forward, I think, is going to be a big question mark because, like a lot of organizations, the conservative movement, you know, you have your leader, and that leader is everything.
The faith. I mean, look at the Free Congress Foundation. That's the best example.
You know, who steps in to lead TPUSA? Charlie Kirk was the face. You know, you say TPUSA, you say Charlie Kirk. You don't even think about it saying anybody else. You know, I think I was telling my wife, I thought that, you know, Heritage was one of the few organizations that did kind of the right thing, is that, you know, Ed Fulner retired, turned the organization over, and he was still around. You know, I guess he could be an advisor, he could kind of be a mentor to other people, but they didn't. You know, by the time that Ed Fulner died, it wasn't really an organization anymore, right?
Yeah.
It had already now moved on to that. So, you know, that's why I look at, say, you know, Leadership Institute. Who's the next head of Leadership Institute? You know, Phyllis Schlafly, Eagle Forum, really she really didn't turn that organization over to anybody.
I mean, isn't her daughter now doing a fairly decent job?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, there wasn't, they should have done a transition earlier. You know, there's a time I think you do that.
You know, they actually had a great person they could have turned it over to as Lori Cole.
Yeah, she would have been great. Lori was a force. I mean, she worked there.
Lori would have been a great. I mean, she was a force on. Was it the Loudon board she was on?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
she worked directly for Phyllis, so she knew Phyllis. So.
Right. She was the executive director, I think, of Eagle Forum. And
she married our old buddy too.
Yeah.
You know what? The death of the closest thing I can think of in the movement to this death would have been Lee Atwater. Atwater was 39 when he died, but remember, Lee Atwater was the great political guru.
Yeah.
So it reminds me a little of Lee Atwater's death.
Yeah, you know, Lee Atwater. I mean, you don't hear that name very often.
Yeah.
But I remember watching him at Republican conventions that I used to go to around the country, and that guy was magic. I mean, he just the charisma that he had, and how he would just relate to everybody there. I mean, the Republican Party lost, you know, a major force there too. I mean, look, you know, when Rush Limbaugh died, you know, the conservative movement lost an icon there too, because, you know, Rush would give you a lot of opinion, put it in kind of wrap it in an entertainment kind of a bundle, but he attracted so many people to the movement. He turned so many Democrats into Republicans, into conservatives, things like that. People who had just immense influence that are irreplaceable, you know, in that regard. So it's you know, it's unfortunate. I mean, you know, there's no way anybody would have foreseen that Charlie Kirk would have been shot and killed. And in Utah, no less, right?
Yeah.
You
know, but you know.
By the way, you know, Utah still has the firing squad. And,
that's right.
They still haven't. Right. Yeah. So this, I don't know what is going to happen here. I think we all will have to wait and kind of see how the charges and, you know, and what they find out about this guy and why he did this. Did he just do it for attention? You know, it doesn't. This doesn't make any sense at this point in time. I know several people that were there at that event, and you know, it was pretty shocking to them. One of my former missionaries attends that school. He was there, and he put out a video, and he was just like, he says, I've never seen so much blood in my entire life. I mean, it was just, you know, you've got these 20-year-old kids or thereabouts, 22-year-old kids
Yeah.
And then this just happens out of the blue. You kind of hear this pop, and you see Charlie go down. This was and how Charlie did these things. This is how he did it, right? They had the little tent thing,
Yep.
you throw the hats around, some of that stuff around, and he'd sit there on the stool or whatever, and then he'd start talking, and he'd have that interactive debate. And so many people, talk about all the nasty stuff he said this, but when it comes to people talking to people that don't necessarily agree with you, Charlie was very respectful, and he encouraged and he thrived on having those debates, and so it's unfortunate that we have so many people out there that are saying, oh, this is karma, coming back to bite him and stuff like that. This is not. This is just a terrible, terrible tragedy that has beset us. And the thing I saw this afternoon was that I think it's called, what is it? Send Go Send. This fundraising site, $2.8 million and counting for his family at this point, and I think it'll grow there. People want to petition to have a statue placed at UVU. I mean, I feel sorry for the administrators and everything at UVU too, though, because that's notoriety you don't want, right? They have the highest enrollment of any college and university in the state of Utah.
Really, higher than BYU?
Oh yeah, they have more than BYU. Their standards are are considerably lower to get in, and everything like that. But they have expanded greatly over the years. It's a very nice little school. It sits right off I-15. I mean, I have passed by that school countless times. My nephew just graduated from there about a year ago. A lot of times it's a school for people who either don't want to go to BYU or can't get into BYU, go there for a couple of years and then try to apply to BYU to get in, build their grades up and get in, and things like that. But it's just a hop, skip, and a throw down the street from where BYU's campus is. And so, I mean, BYU, they're in the midst of a 150th anniversary celebration. This thing happens down the road. And so, they've canceled, and postponed all these other celebrations, to give everybody a time to kind of heal all of this and just kind of try to put themselves together. UVU, all their classes were canceled until Monday. It is just an out and out tragedy is what has happened. But, Charlie Kirk, even though he wasn't my cup of tea, it was an amazing thing that he did, and how he built TPUSA. That I did not realize the extent of how he built this coalition to the point he has. And I don't know what the future of TPUSA is, but and what happens, that also will determine, how those, kind of those very big, MAGA loving, student types, where do they go? What are they going to do? They've lost their real leader there at this point in time. You've got, there aren't that many.
You've got others like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, but Ben.
Shapiro's different. I mean, first of all, Shapiro's a pretty devout Jew, but and I know Ben Shapiro. I mean, I met him. We did stuff with him at AIM, and AIA, when he was just a student.
Was this back when he was still doing the voice of the brain on Arthur?
So, but
you mentioned that.
But my problem with Ben is that he speaks fast, and his tonality is horrible. I mean, I can't listen to the guy. Okay.
Yeah, I'll agree.
But I can't listen to Ben Shapiro.
I'd rather read his stuff than listen to him talk.
Oh yeah,
about
absolutely. Stuff. I mean, I have tried. I have literally tried.
He's on the radio at night on MAL locally. He replaced the other guy that used to be on Roger something, another guy. There's a guy, I want to say it's Roger Hedgecock, but it wasn't Roger Hedgecock.
Hedgecock. I mean, Hedgecock I could listen to. I think. I mean,
no, he was a good guy. No, but Shapiro replaced. It wasn't him. He he was a conservative, but he had things like he had authors on there. That's where I heard about the book, The Last Train from Hiroshima. It's about a guy who's trying to get home to die with his family or something like that. And it's very graphic. It talks about like a train where the train is still going, but everyone's like burned on the inside and the train's on fire. Very graphic. Good book. But yeah, that's how I heard about that. But I mean, what was the guy's name? Who used to do that show? One of our viewers will tell us. But he was really good. And I also liked the fact that on ML, they used to have George Norrie, Coast to Coast AM. Then they replaced it with the Midnight Trucker show, which, it was okay. Yeah, but also done.
Time marches on. Things.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that are still probably trying to tune into Larry King at night. Because remember, he used to be the king of late night radio. He had that overnight radio show. And, Larry, as liberal as he was, he did have some concerns on the show. Like he would have PJ O'Rourke on there. Is PJ still with us, or is he passed on?
Yeah, he passed away, I believe.
He used to have Pat Buchanan. Probably he's about to turn 80 or something like that. I heard on the Chris Plant show. Or 88, one or the other.
Pat's up there.
Yeah. Bay is still around. She's younger, I think.
Right, that was the younger sister.
Well, you remember, speaking of talk show hosts, and we mentioned his name earlier, Ollie North had a show, remember?
Yes,
Ollie
he did.
North.
A very good show, too.
Yeah. How many years? He had that for a while, didn't he?
He had that. I know he had the show in '96, and he had that for a while.
Did they do that on Salem Radio Network?
Yeah,
Salem, I think it was Salem.
I want to say Dr. Keys may have been put in his time slot after he retired. I think Alan Keys got that slot after Ollie. And but he's still with us, living in Darnestown, Maryland.
Yeah.
Dr. Keys.
Yeah, after I found out how much he was trying to pay himself out of his Senate campaign, I'm like, I just really lost interest in the guy.
Yeah.
It's like if you're not running for the public interest because you're really trying to do some good here, but you're actually trying to maintain your lifestyle when you were paying yourself very highly when you're running Citizens Against Government Waste, I'm not really interested in.
Right, CHEW just turned around under the Schatz's leadership. It is really a great organization. By the way,
my question is that how many people are paying attention to it? I mean, we still have a problem of government waste.
Their pig book when they started.
We don't have Tom Coburn to help push that.
Yeah. I mean, their pig book has gotten larger and larger and larger. I think now it's probably the size of a phone book now.
Yeah,
well, you remember.
That's something that Elon Musk should have gotten into.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you remember we used to have him on our show a lot, Peter Flaherty. Remember Peter Flaherty? What was
I know Peter, NLPC, great guy.
Yep, Peter is a great guy.
He's still around. He's still running NLPC.
Okay. And you remember with North, do you guys remember what exactly happened there? He went to the NRA. I think he ran it for a bit.
Oh, basically, Ollie North was ousted from the NRA because Ollie North had the audacity to point out all of their little sweetheart deals and the corruption going on there.
Okay.
That's what happened with Ollie North.
Okay, yeah.
What's his name? He's still there. Wayne LaPierre is still there, right? At NRA.
Yeah, I think that guy will be there forever, really.
He's basically the power behind. He's basically the one that got him ousted. Because I remember he's the one that
they forced LaPierre out. I think.
Did they?
Well, didn't he force North out? I thought in the power struggle, unless they eventually forced out LaPierre.
Yeah, it looks like they pushed him out in 2024.
All right.
So yeah, he was around for a while. Just last year he got forced out. But I wonder if Wayne LaPierre is going to join Randy Pratton over at Gun Owners of America.
Yeah, maybe. Is Larry still with us? I know it sounds bad to say, but I haven't heard from Larry in a bit.
Peter works for Larry.
Oh, does he? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And but I tell you, Don, also the French government fell again.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know what I thought of when I heard about that? Remember that old political cartoon when France sneezes, Europe catches the cold? I wonder if that's going to lead other governments to fall around them. I mean, but if the Italian government falls, it's just another day of the week, frankly, because their governments fall all the time.
Well, I think the Italian government doesn't their government fall. I thought the Italian government's like the worst in terms of stability.
Although they've been pretty stable, they've had the same PM for the last couple years now.
Okay.
The woman who looks like a Fox News anchor.
Yeah, Joe Maloney.
Yeah, by the way, I seriously thought when they had her walk over and bring Joe Biden, I go, why is there a Fox News reporter bringing Joe Biden back?
Yeah.
Well, Madam Prime Minister, if that doesn't work, I'm sure they could find you an anchor spot on Fox News.
Well, she's doing a good job. She's one of the best people in Europe, really. If you think of the leadership,
she's Trumpy. I mean, Argentina's got Malay, and he's Trumpy. I mean, so they're succeeding to a large extent. France. I mean, their prime minister, the previous prime minister. I mean, he had the audacity to try to carry out, Macron's wishes. They were trying to cut a couple of holidays off the calendar. They wanted to cut some funding in the budget.
Did they want to take out Bastille Day?
And they didn't want. That wasn't one of the days there, but Europeans, the workers have been just lazy, spoiled forever. And you can pick almost any European country because short work week hours. Lots of holidays, which are vacations, but they call them holiday, right?
Mm-hmm. They get like 2 months off.
And the unions are basically, you can't lay off anybody. It's almost impossible to lay off anybody.
Yeah.
But Macron his last time he got elected. He cut taxes. He was trying to stimulate the economy and cut taxes. Then they ran into the pandemic. Kind of muck things up, and they didn't get the revenue, so their debt swelled a little.
They need to find a Francois Mitterrand.
But the French, these French workers, they don't, they just think that they're privileged, that they have to have everything.
I know.
You can't cut wages. You can't cut benefits. You can't cut government services.
Hey,
we don't care if you're going into debt. We want everything.
Hey, Don, also, the other thing, the French automobile Citroen. When you guys build a car that's export worthy, maybe then you can get paid more. But Renault, another French man, remember Renault, those cars they used to sell in America under AMC's banner? They all sucked,
Well, do they still make Peugeots or Renaults?
They do. They're all owned by Stellantis now.
Oh,
the
really?
People that are driving Chrysler into the ground. And it's really depressing to see that Chrysler only makes one thing, and it's not even that good. It's the minivan. They don't make sedans. They don't make crossovers. They don't make anything. It's just a minivan. I did. If Lee Iacocca were around, Iacocca would turn Chrysler around and make it profitable again.
As much as I hate the division in our own government with Congress and the Senate, we understand how this works and it's stable, But you go overseas and the parliamentary system, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. So Macron has named a replacement for Bayrou, but there's no guarantee as to how he'll be able to form a government because they don't control the majority of the seats in parliament. So they have these coalition governments, and it won't take long before he may need to get another prime minister. I mean, look what happened in Japan. The Japanese prime minister is going to resign.
Yeah, he just resigned.
They had elections. And they lost some seats, and they don't. So the LDP doesn't have a majority rule there. Great Britain, the liberals are in trouble. They thought they were going to be able to have a good long reign.
Yeah, That's
and the deputy prime minister, has to resign because of a tax scandal. And she was holding the left wing of part of the government together.
yeah. I guess Sunak may be, or the Conservatives might be back in charge in the empire.
Conservatives need to get their act together. I mean, this is part of the thing that always
the Conservatives
about these things
have not had their act together really since John Major. Major.
And remember, you got the right is split because you got the Reform Party, which is good, and the Tories got bad. I mean, they're squishy. So then that left the Reform Party that gave them an avenue to come in.
Well, you watch Nigel Farage, and his whole UKIP thing and all like that, right? And so it's kind of like, it's like,
Independence Party, correct.
Sometimes he makes sense, on some things like this. But he's definitely been a thorn in the side of the Conservatives, of the Tories.
But did you see the back and forth with Nigel Farage and Jamie Raskin?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, Jamie Raskin evidently doesn't have a problem with you being arrested for posting a comment on, didn't what's her name, the author of Harry Potter? Didn't she also get fined?
J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, she got fined for some comment she made.
Something like that. She's good, but yeah, she's a target by the woke. I think they describe her as a person who shall remain nameless. Is that their line?
No, that's for Wolf. Isn't Voldemort the one that's?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the left wants to cancel her, right? I mean,
yeah, they
loved her when she was hanging out with Barack Obama and everybody like that. They loved her when they thought she was,
This is what happens, though. You can be successful like that. I mean, and obviously the Harry Potter, books and movies were phenomenal successes. But she decides that she wants to speak her mind about some of these issues about what's wrong, in the world, what's wrong in the UK, and anything like this. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait a minute, no, you can't do that. It's like, you are not towing the line here. And we only think one way. We only give one message. We thought you were part of the liberal left. What are you doing espousing some other viewpoints that don't align with ours? How dare you?
So,
as I was saying, is like Margaret. I tell you, Britain is not as bad as the continent when it comes to labor. I think that's all because of Margaret Thatcher as prime minister, her leadership, where she took on the coal unions, which was probably the biggest union at the time in the empire. And then, she took them on. She took on railway. She started the process of privatizing British Airways. I think that was under her, right? Was that? Yeah, I think so. And that's why Britain is not as bad as the rest of the continent is. But politically, they've got the Tory need to find their footing. They need to find their next John Major. I mean, their leaders have been kind of lukewarm, milquetoasty of late. Sunak, I know that was a real feel-good moment that one of their former ancestors from the colonies got to become prime minister of the empire. But he was also really very milquetoasty.
I mean, I had some hope for Boris Johnson because he was kind of like Trump, but it just wasn't going to work in the UK.
Yeah. And Boris Johnson was kind of a joke also after that, There is,
and Truss just basically shot herself in the foot. So
yes,
she went ahead and calls a snap election. It's like bad move.
And they were calling her the next Margaret Thatcher. They were calling her that when she first came in. She's like Margaret Thatcher. No, she's not. She's not even Margaret Thatcher on a bad day. She's not even Margaret Thatcher today.
I still think that snap election just sent the Tories into a tailspin. Yeah. Because they lost ground that they couldn't recover, and it just got worse and worse and worse. Boris got caught up with some scandal type of things like this, and for COVID, and Sunak.
He had that little party at number 10 Downing Street.
He was a caretaker. I think he already knew that there was no way he was going to win a national election.
I think they lost it with David Cameron because that's the break from the major Thatcher. Yeah, then you go David Cameron, and Cameron was he wanted to be the kind of the gay friendly Tory and the environmental friendly Tory, and then it started causing problems. I just wondered.
Kinder, gentler Tory is what he was.
I mean this just as a sort of joke, but when Macron picks the next PM, is it going to be a DEI pick? Will it be like a they them?
Well, I mean, he's already made the selection.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the outgoing defense minister, Sebastien Lecornu, is going to do it. But there's no guarantee. The problem is that the prime minister is the guy who's got to figure out how to cobble together the government.
Yeah.
That is you're asking. That's a big mountain. That's hard to do in French politics, particularly the way they are now, because you still got Marine Le Pen, who has gained strength. You've got far lefties and stuff like that. I mean, it's France is a mess.
My favorite terms for legislature, not in America, but I thought House of Deputies sounds cool, and the Duma. I thought the Duma, and in Japan they have the Diet.
The Diet, yeah, the Diet.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think the Japanese should bring back the emperor. Because I mean, do they have the emperor? Like after Hirohito, was he the last emperor, or did his son ascend to become
I think
emperor?
Akito, whoever was next, I think was the last, right? I think they just retired it after the.
See, I like tradition. Why did the Japanese? I mean,
yeah, but that wasn't a good tradition. In a way, it wasn't, because it ended with.
Look. Mary Queen of Scots. I mean, would you say she was a good? Bloody Mary. I mean, come on.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, the British royalty, I think, was overall positive and good. But people think of the emperor, and people willing to die for the emperor in World War II.
But they morphed. The emperor was just a figurehead. He was like he turned Hirohito into the.
A lot of people found it shocking. A lot of Japanese people found it shocking. They'd never even really seen the emperor.
Yeah.
Then they see a picture with
behind the screen. Yeah. By the way, here's a funny Hirohito story. Remember Pat Morita?
Yep.
When I want to say I was probably in second grade. Some kid bet me $5 that Emperor Hirohito was the same guy that played Arnold on Happy Days. He goes, "That's the Japanese emperor." No, that is not the Japanese emperor. But I thought it was funny.
I mean, in Japan, I mean, basically the emperor, the whole royal family. I mean, it's a lot like the British, right? I mean, it's a ceremonial role, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they really don't have any. They have no real power, but they do perform public duties. So it's something in Japan. It's been going on since I don't know, what was it, 600 something BC or something like that. It's just crazy, how long that they've held that together.
That's the question I should have asked the Danish king when he came to NASA about 8-10 years ago. He came there, and what's funny, NASA put in brand new carpeting in the building. Actually, where I still have my office, they put brand new carpeting down there because the king was coming. And somebody asked, "Are you going to ask him?" I go, "Yeah, I'm going to ask him. How does it feel that?" You're not as you're like the tier 2. You're a tier 2 king, because when everyone thinks of royal families, they think of the Windsors, the House of Windsor, and Prince Charles, Queen Elizabeth. You're just you're the guy that's on Danish money, And I should have asked, "Hey, you're also not Emperor Hirohito. It was more popular than you were." But
hey, look at the clock here.
I know we're at final thoughts, everyone. Dave, final thoughts.
Well, I continue to do the podcast, which is going well, and check me out on Substack, and I should have another column up this weekend. Otherwise, doing good, and looking forward to, I guess, the football season, kind of, and especially the World Series coming up in the playoffs. So. But that's about it. I will say I'm thankful they caught the killer in the Charlie Kirk case, but it was really sad yesterday. But evil happens in the world, and you just got to keep marching forward. And I hope the guy gets the death penalty. And in Utah, they do have the firing squad, I think. So hopefully,
yes, they do. I saw that this morning.
And maybe someone should use the gun he used. And but anyway.
I always thought it was only Nevada that still had the firing squad. But it's good to know Utah is very progressive when it comes,
Well,
in the
I
most
think that
fantastic.
sends a good message to future killers, and I also think I hope the guy in Charlotte who murdered that Ukrainian woman on the bus when the train gets.
Yeah, and we know he was deranged. He was definitely a crazy guy.
Mhm.
Well, you know, it's interesting. The former D.C. city police chief, Conti, I think was his last name. He's the one that said that the average murderer had been released like 10 times before they commit the murder. So when Mandami and the others say you can't incarcerate our way out of this crime problem, they're wrong.
Oh, I think we can.
Yeah, we can. Oh, absolutely.
Remember when
You
they
just
said
identify
you
your
can't
current
deport?
criminals.
Remember
Huh?
they said you can't deport every illegal.
Yeah,
Hey, look, we're actually doing it.
I think so. And in fairness to Romney, he talks about self-deporting, and I think you could also do that too, through making it so tough to be here illegally.
Then you get $1,000 if you leave.
You know,
Yeah,
one of my things about the Charlotte thing too, though, is just is that this was a light rail system. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a lot of problems with light rail systems because, and I've ridden a bunch of them all over the country, because the taxpayers have spent a lot of money putting those together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And I bet they don't even check for fares, just like in Baltimore and other big
yeah,
cities.
and they don't, and there's just no, you know, it's almost an honor system. You know, get a ticket machine. You're supposed to buy a ticket. They're supposed to have have it checked off by security or the transit cops or whatever, but you almost never see them.
Mm-hmm.
And so homeless people like the guy who killed this Ukrainian woman, he probably just rides this train when he wants to get out of the weather and cool down or whatever, just from one end to the other, because they don't kick you off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, that's about it.
Okay, Don, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I don't know, it was kind of interesting, this whole dust up with the workers the Korean workers in Georgia at this battery plant, and I understand what the Trump administration was trying to do. On the other hand, I think part of the problem is, based on what I read, is just that South Korea, the companies have been complaining and been actually trying to get the embassy involved too in the concept to say, we need some help here to get these workers squared away and make sure that everything is good, because we need those workers and their expertise to build this plant, and because we can't find American workers to do those jobs. It's not that these guys were really taking away American jobs. They were doing jobs that Americans didn't have the skills to do for the large part. And I get concerned that sometimes the administration has become a little overzealous in how they're approaching this whole illegal immigration and deportation issue and everything like this. Those people were known. I mean, it's not like they didn't know. I mean, they were there out in the open working. I mean, they're employed by, I guess, a subcontractor of LG or whatever that was doing it. And now they've gone home. The factory itself, I think, is now several months behind schedule as a result of this. Will now be set back. I think the administration's got to look at this in a more targeted way, and really think about this. It's like, let's skip having the headline hunting here. Get the real people that need to be deported and we've done a lot of that. We've done a lot of good on that. But sometimes I wonder if we just haven't gone too far on that. But it is what it is. I'll be interested to see how SCOTUS handles the tariff case with Trump. I mean, he's appealed. He's been beaten back by the appeals court on this. Well, the Supreme Court is going to hear this case, but it just seems like the administration is on weak ground. I mean, to use this emergency, the IEPA rule, to say that the deficit, our debt is a national emergency when we've had it going for 50 plus years, that doesn't really qualify. It's not an international crisis. It's not like the country's going to have a big tomorrow because we just keep spending more money all the time anyway, and it's all these tariffs are not they're making an almost imperceptible difference in our debt, so that it's not solving the problem. So I don't know that they make their case very well at all on this, which we'll have to kind of see how this affects whether or not they're going to actually have to give refunds, what happens there. It's thrown all the trade negotiations probably up in the air, and we'll see what happens with that. And Cracker Barrel has halted their restaurant renovations. They heard the people speak, and they're stopping that. I don't know if they were doing anything about the menu changes. Whether they're gonna revert to that. But
Did they actually? I thought they didn't change the menu. I thought it was just the.
no, they had changed. They had changed the menu. They started making menu changes, and they had started to renovate the stores and make and try to get rid of some of the stuff that's in the entrance as you go into to get to the restaurant portion.
Oh, I like that. Don't get rid of that.
That's all like kitschy, culture, all that kind of stuff.
I like that store they had up front.
Yeah, I mean,
you could buy. That was the only place you could buy Hydrox cookies. Don.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a to me it was a great marketing move because you're forcing people through this part of the store, and invariably people would buy stuff, before they went to go eat.
Yep.
And you make money off of that. Why not?
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Anyway, back to you, Dwight.
Okay, final thoughts. One, it looks like President Trump has just, it was actually a couple of days ago, he did a tweet just on Tuesday about how his trade talks with the Indian Prime Minister are going well, and called him his very good friend. So I think that's gonna work itself out, the whole tariff. So the price of rice is not going to go up, or it may just go up for the sake of that. And even though there are no tariffs, they're still going to raise the price because they just look at it as an opportunity to raise the price of rice. And also, very sad losing Charlie Kirk this week. And we have the Red, White, and Blue dinner next week. It is going to be at the Beta Bear Marriott. Our speaker is the wonderful Lee Zeldin. Tickets are still available at mdgop.org. Check it out. Buy your tickets today. And that's all I've really got, actually. And by the way, Don, I went into an Aldi's the other day. I was over at NASA, and I went to go. I wanted to test out the Domino's $9.99 deal for you get as many toppings as you want on a pizza, right? Around lunchtime. So I wasn't done yet, so I decided to walk over to the Aldi's, and it wasn't bad. By the way, I did that again. Remember I told you how Doritos were like overpriced there? They're like $5. And I walked by there, was it Wednesday again? Yeah, Wednesday. And I think they listened to us, Don, because they dropped the price of Doritos to $3 now. $3, for the big bag of Doritos, which is kind of crazy. Although the big bag is actually what used to be the small bag when we were growing up, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
still remember getting those bags that were, I don't know what, this big for 99 cents.
Do you remember those Utz bags where they have 2 bags of potato chips in there? To keep them fresh and so on. They don't do that anymore. And by the way, candy is still pricey at Aldi's. I saw that the big bag of Kit Kats was almost like $5.99 a pound. Not $5.99 a pound, $5.99. And so on. So Costco still has them beat.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. It's hard to be Costco. I mean, all these are a nice fill-in for a lot of people who don't have Costco memberships.
Mm-hmm.
They want the basics, and that's what Aldi provides. Is not a lot of fancy stuff. They throw in a few things, but bread, milk, eggs, vegetables, some snacks, some cereal, and then they have those aisles, Aldi finds, where you've got lots of different things that they sell, and that rotates every so often. So,
But I tell you, there is one thing. When I went into all these the first time, you know what I got? I got vibes of Shoppers Food Warehouse. Do you remember that store?
Oh yeah, sure.
Shoppers.
I used to go there all the time.
I got the vibes of that. That's what it felt like going in there. Except they didn't charge me a quarter to rent a shopping cart. Although I hear they're getting rid of that.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Lidl doesn't charge for the shopping cart. I mean, I think. Look, I don't have. Look, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that because what it does is it keeps the fact that they don't lose their shopping carts. For people, we have this mentality in this country is like, okay, I've made a 25-cent deposit on the shopping cart. I want my 25 cents back, rather than I'm going to wheel it out to my car and then leave it, hanging in the out there somewhere in the parking lot where somebody can then take it away to an apartment. People invariably, you can almost guarantee they will return every single cart to get their 25 cents back. They do this. They do this in Asia. This is.
By the way, don't they have like locks? Like I know Safeway and Giant, their carts. You take them too far, the wheels lock up, so you really can't take them.
Yeah, that depends. I think some stores went ahead and installed kind of like an RFID system, and they geo-fenced everything, right? So that once you pass that point, the whole thing locked up. Because those shopping carts, they said, 5 or 10 years ago, were $250 to replace every one of those. So you can only imagine what they cost today. That's an expense.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of shopping carts, Don, my favorite Kensington Safeway. Why can't I ever have a cart that has the wheels all working? It's like I'm getting carpal tunnel trying to keep the cart going straight. Come on, you just got these new, or is it the people that go there are abusing these? You can't have nice things because they just replaced all the shopping carts with a little bit larger Safeway carts. And Target, I think, probably has the best carts because I think they're all plastic, and I guess the casters on there are more durable than the ones with the metal carts. Maybe they should look at going into plastic carts.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
But I hate it, the fact that I get a shopping cart where there's a wheel that sticks.
I don't know. I guess having I've spent 50 plus years or 60 plus years dealing with shopping carts are kind of like the old days. There would always be a shopping cart where the wheels never turned right and just drive you nuts.
I think we're talking about first world problems now.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. It's kind of, I was talking to somebody when I was, this is like 2 cars ago. I go, hey, should I buy a GMC or a BMW X5? And the guy goes, that's a first world problem. And he goes, and it's not even a first, it's a 1% problem. So, anyways, that's all I've got. Good night, everyone. We'll see everyone next week. Good night, everyone.
See you again. Bye-bye.
Let's go down to Masoni's, where Italian cuisine shines. Let's go down to Masoni's, we'll have a good